Evan Marlowe had always dreamed of the stars. As a boy, he would lie on the roof of his small home on Earth, watching distant points of light and imagining what might live beyond them. Now, at 29, he was living that dream. He was a member of the human exploratory crew of the starship Odyssey, one of the first human expeditions to venture into the uncharted regions of the Xyrith system. The planet they had discovered, called Luminara for its glowing forests and strange shimmering lakes, was unlike any place humans had ever seen. Trees with translucent leaves reached high into the sky, their branches weaving together to form natural canopies that pulsed with faint light. The rivers glowed faintly with an iridescent blue, and the air carried a soft hum, like the planet itself was alive and whispering secrets. Evan walked cautiously, scanning the alien terrain with both awe and a professional eye. His role on the mission was as a xenobiologist, but he was trained in survival and combat protocols, in case the unknown became dangerous. Lena Orvik, the ship's biochemist, and Commander Jax Trenton, who led the exploration team. They had landed after scanning the planet from orbit, curious about its unusual energy readings. "Keep your eyes open," Jax said, his voice steady but low. "This planet has life, but we don't know what kind. Could be friendly or not." Evan nodded. The glow of the forest made it hard to see, but the air was thick with motion. Small creatures darted between glowing plants, leaving trails of light behind them. Evan felt the thrill of discovery mingled with a twinge of unease. Humans had always been adaptable, but Luminara seemed almost alive in ways they couldn't fully understand. Hours passed as they ventured deeper into the forest. Then, without warning, the ground beneath them vibrated, and strange shapes emerged from the trees. Tall, armored figures with multiple limbs and shining eyes surrounded the crew. They moved with grace and precision, and even from a distance, Evan could sense the weight of their authority. "Stand down," Jack said firmly, raising his hands. "We come in peace. We are explorers from Earth." The figures did not respond. Instead, they approached faster, encircling the humans. Evan felt his heart beat faster, and instinctively, his hand went to the small sidearm at his hip. But the creatures didn't seem interested in weapons. They spoke in a series of clicks and hums that resonated in the air. Lena's translator device beeped and whirred as it tried to interpret the sounds. Then one of the figures stepped forward, taller than the rest, adorned in elaborate ceremonial armor. A presence so commanding, it made Evan stumble backward slightly. This must be their leader. And as the translation device worked, a voice filled the clearing. "You are not of this world," the voice said, smooth, measured, and surprisingly melodic. "Why have you come?" Evan swallowed. "We are explorers. We mean no harm. We study planets, life, knowledge. We seek understanding." The leader tilted its head, scanning them carefully. Specifically, it focused on the small tattoo at the base of his neck, a thin, intricate symbol inked long ago by his grandmother. Evan had always thought of it as a personal memento, a reminder of Earth's history of curiosity and exploration. But the leader's eyes widened, an emotion that seemed almost awe. "Where did you get this mark?" it asked. The voice was softer now, tinged with something like reverence. Evan touched the tattoo instinctively. "It's a family tradition. My grandmother, she studied many cultures, even those not human. I guess she admired the art of other species." The leader moved closer, its eyes never leaving the tattoo. The other armored figures remained still, alert, but silent. "This symbol, it is sacred. It belongs to the prophecy of the one who will save the life of the Queen." Evan blinked, unsure if he had understood correctly. "Yes," the figure replied. almost whispering now. The mark has appeared only once every 1,000 cycles. And now, it is on you. You bear it. Effer the Melfers. Effer then. Effer the Mellifers. Effer the Melfers. Effer the Mellifers carroting. A chill ran down Evan's spine. Humans were remarkable in many ways, capable of courage, creativity, and resilience. But prophecy? Destiny? It sounded like something out of the stories his grandmother had told him as a child. And yet, here it was, unfolding, in real time. Before he could respond, the leader made a swift gesture. The other figures moved aside, revealing a passageway carved into the glowing forest, leading toward a structure that seemed impossible. A palace that glimmered like crystal, soaring above the forest floor. Evan had never seen architecture like it, with flowing towers that reflected the light of the trees, as if the palace itself were alive. "You will come with me," the leader said. "The Queen must see you." Evan glanced at Jax, who was frowning. "Wait, are you seriously suggesting I just—" "Follow her," the leader said firmly. "It is your fate." Evan took a deep breath and followed, his mind racing. Lena stayed close, whispering, "Be careful. Evan, something about this feels bigger than us." They entered the palace, and Evan felt an overwhelming sensation of scale and history. The walls shimmered, as if made from liquid light. The floors seemed to pulse beneath his feet. Everywhere he looked, there were carvings and murals depicting scenes of heroism, struggle, and unity among the Xylarian people. Evan could sense that this civilization had thrived for thousands of cycles, and they were nothing like humans, yet they shared something in their reverence for courage and wisdom. Finally, they arrived at a grand chamber. At its center sat Queen Elira, her presence magnetic and commanding. Her body was tall and elegant, with armor and ceremonial attire that signified both power and grace. Her eyes, deep and intelligent, locked onto Evan immediately. And then, she saw the tattoo. Her expression shifted from curiosity to astonishment. She rose from her seat, her movements smooth and deliberate. "You," she began, her voice carrying authority yet a strange warmth. "You bear the mark. The prophecy. It is true. And these see and ride. Also 10. And ride." Evan felt his stomach tighten. "Prophecy? I think there's been a mistake. I'm just—" "You are not just," Elira interrupted gently but firmly. "You are the one who is destined to save my life, human. And somehow, you carry the proof here, on your skin." Evan's mind raced. The weight of the situation pressed down on him. Humans were known for resilience and intelligence. But he had never imagined that his mere presence, or a tattoo, could hold the attention of a galactic queen. He realized, in that moment, that humans were remarkable not only because of their ingenuity, but because of the courage they could summon in the face of the unknown. Queen Elira studied him, her gaze intense but not hostile. "Do you understand what this means?" she asked. Evan shook his head. "No, I don't. I don't know what I can do." "You will learn," she said. "And soon, the galaxy will know that humans are capable of things no other species can achieve. The mark is proof, not just of destiny, but of your kind's potential. You are unpredictable, clever, brave." At that moment, Evan understood that his life and perhaps the lives of countless others was about to change. He was standing at the center of a story far larger than himself, in a civilization older and more advanced than humanity, yet ready to acknowledge the strength of one human. And though fear tinged the edges of his mind, so did a deep, thrilling sense of purpose. Queen Elira's eyes softened slightly. "Rest now, human. Soon, you will know why you are here. Soon, the galaxy We'll see your worth. Evan nodded, barely understanding, but he trusted her. For the first time in his life, he felt the full weight of what it meant to be human, not just in survival, but in courage, wisdom, and the unpredictable spark that could change worlds. As he was escorted to the chambers prepared for him, Evan looked back at the glowing city, the living forest, and the ancient walls of the palace. A part of him thrilled at the adventure to come, while another part of him feared what might unfold. He had been chosen, or perhaps the universe had simply recognized the qualities that humans possessed and needed at this moment. Either way, Evan Marlowe, with a small tattoo on his neck and a heart full of determination, was about to step into a destiny that no human had ever imagined. And the Queen of the Xylarian Empire had already placed her trust in him. A trust that would soon test everything he thought he knew about courage, loyalty, and the potential of humanity. And so, in the luminescent glow of Luminara, amidst towering crystal structures and humming forests, the adventure of a human among the stars truly began. Evan Marlowe lay on the soft, glowing floor of the chamber assigned to him, the faint hum of the palace filling the quiet air. He had spent the last few hours staring at the ceiling, trying to understand what had just happened. Humans were explorers, yes, but prophecies and sacred marks? That was something out of stories, not real life. And yet, the Queen of the Xylarian Empire had looked at him with awe, her words echoing in his mind. You bear the mark. The prophecy. It is true. On one sum, he sat up and touched the tattoo at the base of his neck. The symbol was intricate, a series of lines and curves that seemed to shift subtly in the light, almost as if it were alive. On Earth, it had been just a family heirloom, inked by his grandmother as part of her fascination with alien cultures. But here, on Luminara, it had become something far greater. A soft chime echoed through the chamber, and the door slid open. Evan looked up to see a Xylarian attendant, tall and lithe, with iridescent skin that shimmered in the pale light. The attendant bowed. The Queen requests your presence, it said. Its voice was melodic, almost musical, and the words seemed carefully chosen. Evan rose, brushing his clothes. He had no idea what to expect. Would the Queen treat him as a guest? A prisoner? Or something else entirely? Every instinct screamed caution, but curiosity and a sense of destiny pushed him forward. The corridor leading to the throne room was unlike anything he had ever seen. Walls shimmered with a liquid-like texture, reflecting light in endless patterns. The floor was smooth and glowed faintly beneath his feet. Strange symbols, etched into the walls, pulsed softly, responding to his presence as if the palace itself acknowledged him. Finally, he arrived at the grand chamber again. Queen Elira was seated at the center, her presence commanding, yet calm. She motioned for him to approach. Sit, human, she said. There is much you must know. Evan did as instructed, though his mind raced with questions. Your Majesty, he began cautiously. I don't understand. Why me? Why this tattoo? Elira's eyes softened, and she leaned forward slightly. The mark you bear is older than our civilization itself. It is part of a prophecy recorded by my ancestors, many millennia ago. They spoke of a being from a distant star, whose courage and ingenuity would save the Queen in a time of great peril. Until today, we believed it was only a story. Evan swallowed. So, it's real? I'm part of this prophecy? Yes, Elira said, her voice calm but firm. And the universe has a strange way of guiding destinies. You did not seek this mark, yet it sought you. The human's unpredictability, your kind's courage, and creativity have made you the one who carries it. Evan felt a mix of awe and disbelief. Humans were known across certain star systems for their resilience, yes, But to be singled out in an ancient prophecy, it felt overwhelming. I don't know if I can do anything. I'm just a human, not special, not like you or your people. The queen shook her head gently. You underestimate yourselves. Humans are remarkable. You are unpredictable. You can see solutions where others see only problems. You act with courage even when the outcome is uncertain. Evan blinked. You... Elira smiled faintly. Yes. The mark allows me to know who bears it. It reveals names, purpose, and potential. The prophecy does not simply recognize a body. It recognizes the spirit. And your spirit, human, is extraordinary. For a moment, Evan simply sat, trying to absorb her words. He had always believed humans were clever, adaptable, and capable of great things. But hearing it from a being like Elira, from a civilization far older and more advanced than humanity, made him realize that humans were not just capable, they were remarkable on a galactic scale. You must understand, Elira continued, that this mark comes with responsibility. A threat looms over my empire, one that even we cannot face alone. The Vorath, a rival species, have developed technology that could destroy the Xylarian capital. Their goal is not just conquest, it is annihilation. And when they strike, I will need your help. Evan's heart pounded. Me? How can I help against a civilization like yours? I don't even know your people, your technology, or your strengths. Elira's gaze was steady, unflinching. That is exactly why you are needed. The Vorath expect the predictable, the usual strategies. Humans, you are unpredictable. Your ingenuity, your ability to think differently, gives us an advantage we have never had. You are the one who will find a way where none seems possible. Evan swallowed hard. And if I fail? The queen's expression softened with empathy. Then I will fight alongside you. But I do not believe you will fail. The mark is not just a prophecy. It is a promise of potential. And you, human, have potential beyond even your own understanding. He nodded slowly, a mix of fear and determination settling in his chest. Humans were not invincible, but they had something rare. Courage in the face of the unknown. Creativity when rules seemed absolute, and a determination that could change outcomes. That is why he had survived explorations before, why he had faced dangers on uncharted planets, and why, perhaps, he had been chosen for this moment. The queen waved her hand, and a holographic map of the Xyrith system appeared above the throne. Evan leaned forward, studying the details. Star systems, fleets, and distant colonies were marked in vibrant colors. One cluster, highlighted in deep red, pulsed ominously. That, Elira said, is where the Vorath gather. Their fleet is powerful, and their technology is deadly. But it is also structured, predictable, and that is where you come in. Evan studied the map, realizing the enormity of the challenge. Humans were explorers, not soldiers of empires. Yet, the idea of strategy, improvisation, and ingenuity, those were the tools he had used on countless missions. Perhaps that was exactly what the Xylarians needed. Elira continued, explaining the Vorath's attack patterns, their advanced weapons, and their ruthless efficiency. But she also revealed their blind spots, the small details overlooked by their arrogance, the assumptions they made about other species, the rigidity in their battle strategies. Evan listened intently, his mind racing with possibilities. Your Majesty, he said after a pause, I think I understand. You don't just need strength. You need ideas, clever moves, and the unexpected. And humans are good at that. We don't follow rules the same way other species do. We improvise. We adapt. That's why the mark chose me. Illyra's eyes shone with approval. Exactly. Humans are not the strongest in force, but in spirit, courage, and ingenuity, they are unmatched. That is why your kind is both feared and respected across the stars. And that is why I place my trust in you. For the first time since he arrived, Evan felt a surge of confidence. He might be human, and humans might be small compared to interstellar civilizations. But they were remarkable in ways few understood. They were resourceful, courageous, and capable of turning the tide in impossible situations. Over the next hours, Illyra guided him through more details. She explained the sacred significance of the tattoo, the history of the prophecy, and the lineage of rulers who had once waited for a being like him to appear. Evan learned that his grandmother's tattoo was more than family tradition. It had unknowingly connected him to one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. As they spoke, Evan realized the depth of human potential. Here, he was, an ordinary human, suddenly placed at the center of an interstellar destiny. But humans thrived in challenges. They adapted, solved problems, and often succeeded where logic alone failed. Perhaps that was why the prophecy had chosen him. By the end of the day, Evan felt both the weight of responsibility and the thrill of opportunity. He was no longer just an explorer. He was a key part of a story that spanned galaxies. One that would test courage, intelligence, and the uniquely human ability to act when others might hesitate. As night fell over the glowing forests of Luminara, Evan looked out of the chamber's transparent walls at the vast city below. Lights shimmered across towers and bridges, and he imagined the fleets and citizens he would one day help protect. The enormity of what lay ahead was overwhelming, but so was the certainty that humans were capable of the extraordinary. Queen Illyra's voice echoed in his mind one final time that night. You are human. You are brave. You are clever. And that is why the galaxy has waited for you. Evan touched his tattoo gently and whispered to himself, I will not fail. I will do what humans do best. I will find a way. I will not. I will not. And so, as the alien city glimmered under the twin moons of Luminara, Evan Marlowe, human among the stars, began the journey that would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of courage he possessed. The morning light of Luminara filled the grand chamber, painting the palace in soft gold and green hues. Evan Marlowe had not slept well. Though the night had been quiet, his mind was racing. The Vorath threat weighed heavily on him. They were not just a rival species, they were dangerous, methodical, and armed with weapons that could tear through the strongest Xylarian defenses. And now, as the human who bore the sacred mark, the burden of helping protect an entire civilization rested on his shoulders. Queen Illyra entered the chamber, her presence calm but commanding. Evan, she said, her voice steady. Today you begin your first lesson not in combat, but in strategy. You will see the Vorath threat firsthand. You will learn to anticipate, to adapt, and to think in ways that no Xylarian mind could imagine. Evan nodded, though anxiety fluttered in his chest. Humans were clever and resourceful. Yes, but even they had limits. Yet, somehow, he felt a spark of confidence. Humans had always thrived when the odds were against them. This was simply another challenge, one far larger than anything he had faced on Earth, but a challenge nonetheless. Illyra gestured to a large holographic map of the Vorath fleet, hovering above the table. Ships moved like shadows, intricate in design and deadly in potential. These are the Vorath, she said. Their strength is in their technology, their coordination, and their discipline. But they are predictable in ways you may find useful. Humans, you can exploit patterns others cannot see. Evan leaned forward. His mind began racing, analyzing the fleet layout, the supply lines, and the potential weaknesses. Humans had always excelled at finding solutions in complex situations, and this was no exception. They rely heavily on structured formations, he observed. If we can disrupt one critical node, we could create confusion in the fleet. They won't know how to adapt as quickly as we can think. Elira's eyes gleamed with approval. Exactly. That is the quality I foresaw. Humans see beyond the obvious. Humans improvise. The Queen led Evan to a strategic observation room, suspended high above the glowing city. From there, he could see the Xylarian defenses preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Energy shields hummed, fleets of patrol vessels glimmered in formation, and soldiers drilled with disciplined precision. Everything was impressive, too impressive, Evan thought, to rely only on raw strength against the Vorath. Hours later, scouts returned with alarming news. The Vorath were approaching faster than predicted. They had discovered a weakness in a remote sector and were moving their fleet directly toward it. The Xylarians had defended this sector successfully for centuries, but the Vorath's technology was unlike anything they had faced. Commander Jax and I will lead defensive operations, Elira said. But Evan, you must advise. Your perspective is different, fresh, unconventional. We need it now. Evan swallowed hard. Understood, Your Majesty. The human stepped into the War Council with determination. Around him were Xylarian generals, beings who had fought countless battles over centuries. They were towering, armored, and experienced. Yet Evan sensed a subtle tension as they looked at him. Here was a human, an outsider, yet the Queen's trust elevated him above even their centuries of expertise. The Vorath will attack Sector 7, one general said. We will reinforce defenses. No human has ever survived in the front line without a guide. Evan shook his head. Reinforcing defenses is good, but predictable. The Vorath will anticipate it. Instead, we need a distraction, something small, fast, and unexpected. They will focus on it, giving us an opening to strike at their command ships. A murmur ran through the council. Some generals exchanged skeptical glances, but Elira nodded approvingly. Proceed, human. Your ideas are unconventional, yet promising. Teach us what you see. Evan laid out his plan using holographic projections. He suggested sending small, fast skimmers with minimal crews to strike at critical supply lines, drawing the Vorath away from the city. Simultaneously, the Xylarians could concentrate their forces at key points to trap the enemy fleet. Every step relied on speed, creativity, and the ability to act unpredictably, a human strategy. Hours later, the first skimmers were deployed. Evan watched from the observation deck as tiny crafts darted toward the Vorath fleet, glowing like fireflies against the dark expanse of space. The Vorath responded, diverting their forces to intercept, but Evan's prediction held true. They underestimated the human-led tactics. Their rigid formations struggled to adapt, creating confusion among their ranks. The human crew members assisting Evan worked tirelessly. He guided them to exploit the Vorath's blind spots, using gravity fields, deceptive holograms, and unexpected maneuvers. His mind moved rapidly, adjusting strategies as the battle unfolded in real time. Every human instinct, adaptation, improvisation, creativity, was being tested on a scale far beyond Earth. Elira observed silently, her eyes scanning the holographic map. Remarkable, she whispered to herself. They learn, they adapt, and they improvise. The human, the prophecy, is real. The first wave of Vorath ships was forced back, damaged and disoriented. Evan's tactics had disrupted the fleet more than anyone had expected. He could see the small victories piling up, supply lines broken, command signals scrambled, enemy pilots frustrated by unpredictability. And through it all, the human's courage shone. They did not panic, even as the Vorath retaliated with intense firepower. Instead, they adapted, improvised, and acted with precision under pressure. Then came the warning. Sensors detected a Vorath strike team moving directly toward the city's central energy hub, a critical point that powered both the city and the defensive shields. If it were destroyed, the entire Xylarian capital would be vulnerable. "Evan," Alira said sharply, "this is your moment. You must act." Evan's mind raced. The Vorath strike team was fast, advanced, and deadly. A direct confrontation would be suicidal. But humans thrived on ingenuity. He quickly analyzed the terrain, the energy hub's protective fields, and the patrol routes. Then, an idea struck him. A plan both bold and unconventional. He directed a small squad of human-guided skimmers to deploy a series of holographic decoys around the hub, creating the illusion of multiple entrances. Simultaneously, a secondary team would secretly maneuver behind the Vorath strike team, cutting off their escape. The plan relied entirely on misdirection and the Vorath's assumption that they could predict the humans' behavior. The moment of action arrived. The Vorath moved in, confident and focused. They activated their weapons, aiming at the decoy entrances. For a moment, it seemed like the plan might fail. The Vorath were fast, adaptive, and aggressive. But Evan's calculations held. The holograms confused them, forcing them to split their forces. The secondary team struck at the vulnerable flank, creating chaos in the enemy ranks. From the observation deck, Evan could see the impact in real time. Vorath ships collided, weapons misfired, and pilots struggled to regain control. The human-led tactics were working. Courage, cleverness, and adaptability, the qualities humans were known for, had turned the tide. Alira watched silently, pride in her eyes. "The mark is true," she whispered. "The human is extraordinary." By the end of the first engagement, the Vorath had been forced to retreat, though they had not been completely defeated. Evan knew this was only the beginning. They would return, stronger and more determined. But the humans had proven themselves. Their ingenuity and bravery had saved lives and secured a crucial advantage for the Xylarians. Later, in the quiet of the war room, Evan reflected on the battle. Humans had always faced challenges far beyond their size or apparent strength. They had thrived by thinking differently, acting bravely, and never underestimating their own creativity. That had not changed. Queen Alira entered quietly. "You have done well, human," she said. "Not because you followed orders, but because you used your mind and spirit in ways no one expected. Humans are remarkable. Today, you have shown why." Evan nodded, exhausted but alive. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I just did what humans do best." Alira smiled. "And that is why the prophecy chose you. It is not just the mark, it is your courage, your ingenuity, your ability to act when others hesitate. That is the human spirit. That is what the galaxy must see." As night fell over Luminara, Evan looked out over the glowing forests and the vibrant city. He understood, more than ever, that humans were capable of extraordinary things. Even in a galaxy filled with powerful civilizations, humans could make the difference. But he also knew the Vorath would return. Their technology was advanced, their ambition relentless. The next battle would be greater, and the stakes would be higher. Evan clenched his fists, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on him once more. And yet, as he gazed at the glowing city, he also felt hope. Humans were not the largest or the strongest species in the galaxy, but their courage, intelligence, and unpredictability were unmatched. And in that, Evan realized, lay the true power of his kind. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. And the Queen's trust, the prophecy, and the mark on his neck were only the beginning of a story that would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of human ingenuity. Evan took a deep breath. He was human. He was brave. And he was ready. The glow of Luminara's forests was muted under the shadow of war. Smoke and sparks rose from distant towers, and the hum of defensive systems filled the air. The Vorath had returned, stronger than before. Evan Marlowe watched from the observation deck as their fleet moved with precision, their deadly weapons aimed at the heart of the Xylarian capital. The first engagement had shown Evan that humans were clever, adaptable, and unpredictable. But this was different. The Vorath were relentless, and their new technology allowed them to bypass some of the city's defenses. The Queen herself had been at the center of the command hub when the attack began, and sensors indicated she was now trapped in a part of the city under siege. Evan's heart pounded. He had seen the Vorath's tactics and the damage they could cause. The thought of Queen Elira in danger sent a surge of determination through him. Humans were not the largest or the strongest species in the galaxy, but they had courage, quick thinking, and a willingness to act when others might hesitate. This was his moment to prove it. "Commander Jax," Evan said, turning to the Xylarian leader beside him, "we need a small, fast strike team to reach the Queen. Reinforcements alone won't work. The Vorath will overwhelm them. We need to act smart, not just strong." Jax studied him, his many eyes narrowing. "You mean, you alone? Human?" Evan shook his head. "Not alone. I will lead a small team, humans and Xylarians. We move fast, stay unpredictable, and get to her before the Vorath notice. The key is misdirection and speed." Jax hesitated, then nodded. "If anyone can do it, human, it's you. Your first plan worked. Let's hope this one does too." Evan led the team through narrow corridors and emergency tunnels, bypassing the main attack points. The air smelled faintly of ozone and burning metal. Sparks from damaged circuits danced across the walls. The city, usually alive with vibrant color, now seemed tense and fragile, every shadow hiding potential danger. As they approached the sector where the Queen was trapped, Evan observed the Vorath patrols. Their weapons were advanced, their sensors sharp. But humans, he knew, had a unique advantage: creativity and courage under pressure. He devised a series of distractions, small energy pulses that mimicked movement, false signals to draw enemy patrols away from the route they needed. "Follow my lead," Evan whispered. "Stay calm, stay alert, and remember, act differently than they expect." The team moved quietly, slipping past Vorath guards. The human instincts he relied on, perception, timing, and improvisation, kept them alive. They reached the edge of the chamber where Elira was held. Guards surrounded her, their weapons aimed and ready. Evan studied them. There were too many for a frontal attack, but humans thrived in situations where logic alone seemed impossible. He noticed patterns in the guards' movements, small hesitations, predictable rotations, overconfidence in their numbers. He motioned to the team. "Split into two groups," he whispered. "One distracts from the right, the other moves from the left. I'll go through the center, with minimal exposure." The plan relied on timing, stealth, and misdirection. Evan's pulse raced as the first group triggered their energy pulses. Lights flickered across the chamber, drawing the Vorath's attention. The second group slipped past unnoticed, and Evan darted through the center, using shadows and debris for cover. A brief exchange of fire erupted, but the humans' agility and quick thinking allowed them to avoid direct hits. Evan reached the Queen's side, crouching behind a console. Elira's eyes widened in recognition and relief. "You," she said softly. "Human. You came." Evan nodded. "I promised. Let's get you out of here." The Queen's attendants were trapped, unable to move without being detected. Evan quickly assessed the situation and found an emergency lift that could take them above the main battle zone. But the control panel required a manual override, one that would expose him for several crucial seconds. Illyra watched him with trust and patience. Do what you must, human. Evan's fingers flew over the controls, recalculating risks as he worked. In moments, the lift engaged, and the doors opened upward. They would need to climb quickly, and the Vorath were close. Evan motioned for Illyra and the attendants to enter first, then followed himself, stepping into the open as enemy sensors swept the area. He fired short, precise bursts, not to harm, but to distract and mislead the Vorath patrols. Then, relying on speed and timing, he vaulted into the lift. The doors closed just as a Vorath patrol reached the floor below. As the lift ascended, Evan could see the battle below. The Vorath were attacking relentlessly, but the humans' ingenuity and unconventional thinking had disrupted their patterns. Small strikes, clever diversions, and bold maneuvers had given the Xylarians breathing space to regroup. When the lift reached the upper chamber, they emerged into a corridor filled with light and protective energy fields. Illyra turned to him, her expression a mix of relief and awe. "You have done it, human," she said. "You acted with courage, creativity, and quick thinking. The prophecy, the mark, it was not wrong." Evan caught his breath. "I just did what humans do best. We adapt, we improvise, and we act when others hesitate." Illyra smiled faintly. "And that is why humans are respected across the stars. Your kind has the ability to change outcomes in ways no other species can. Today, you saved my life." Evan looked at her, the weight of the moment pressing on him. This was no ordinary victory. Humans were not physically the strongest, but their ingenuity and courage allowed them to alter the fate of a civilization. It was a lesson he had understood on Earth, in small ways, but now it was being proven on a galactic scale. As they moved to a secure chamber, Evan assessed the battle's impact. The Vorath had retreated temporarily, but their fleet remained a threat. The humans and Xylarians had gained an advantage, but the war was far from over. Yet, Evan felt something shift within him. Humans were not meant to be predictable, and their potential, combined with courage, could overcome obstacles that seemed impossible. Illyra regarded him with a calm intensity. "You understand, human, that this is only the beginning. The Vorath will return, stronger and more determined. But today you showed what humans are capable of. Your spirit, your courage, your mind, they are gifts the galaxy needs." Evan nodded. He had always known humans were clever and adaptable. But this was proof that a single human could influence the outcome of a battle, save lives, and inspire trust in a civilization far older and more advanced than Earth. Later, as the city slowly returned to its vibrant glow, Evan stood at the edge of the palace balcony, gazing at the forests below. The battle had been intense, but humans had prevailed, not by strength alone, but by thinking differently, acting boldly, and trusting in their abilities. Illyra joined him, her presence both commanding and serene. "Do you see, Evan?" she asked. "This is why the prophecy exists. Humans are not just survivors, they are creators, thinkers, and protectors. They are the unpredictable force that even the most advanced civilizations must respect." Evan nodded slowly. "I understand, Your Majesty. Humans, we don't always follow the expected path, but when it matters most, we find a way. That's what we do. Also, way, recharted for me." Illyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "And that is why I owe you my life, human. You did not just act. You inspired hope, courage, and trust. The galaxy will remember this day, and your kind will be honored for what you have done." Evan felt a mixture of pride and humility. Humans were small in the grand scope of the universe, but their spirit, creativity, and bravery were unmatched. Today, that spirit had saved a queen, disrupted an enemy fleet, and proven that humans could change the course of history. As the twin moons of Luminara rose in the sky, casting gentle light across the palace and forests, Evan understood the depth of his responsibility. The Vorath threat was not gone, but humanity had made its mark. And he, a single human with a tattoo on his neck, had become a symbol of courage, ingenuity, and hope. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle upon him. Humans had always thrived in challenges, and now, the galaxy would see just how remarkable they could be. And in that quiet, glowing night, Evan Marlowe, human among the stars, prepared for the battles yet to come, with courage in his heart, intelligence in his mind, and the spirit of his species guiding every move. The Xylarian capital of Luminara shimmered beneath the twin moons, its crystal towers reflecting the soft glow of the forests below. But the calm was deceptive. Alerts blared across the palace as the Vorath fleet returned, larger and more dangerous than before. Evan Marlowe stood at the observation deck, flanked by Commander Jax and a team of Xylarian strategists. "This is it," Evan said quietly, eyes scanning the holographic map. "They've learned from the last attack. They'll strike harder, faster, and smarter. But humans, we have something they don't expect." "What is that?" Jax asked, tilting his head. "Imagination," Evan replied with a faint smile. "Cleverness, courage, the ability to act when others think there's no way. We adapt, we improvise, and we surprise our enemies." Illyra entered the room, regal and calm despite the danger. "Evan," she said, her voice carrying authority and trust, "your kind has already proven itself. But today we will see the full measure of your abilities." Evan nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also the fire of determination. Humans were not the largest or the strongest species in the galaxy, but they had an unmatched ability to think differently and act boldly. And today, that ability would be tested on a scale larger than anything he had ever imagined. The Vorath attack came swiftly. Massive ships emerged from the shadows of space, weapons glowing, engines roaring. The Xylarian fleet moved to intercept, but the Vorath were cunning and relentless. Energy beams cut through the darkness, creating streaks of light and destruction. Evan moved quickly, coordinating small human-led strike teams with precision. He divided forces, sending some to lure Vorath units into traps, others to sabotage their supply chains, and a select group to target the command ships directly. Every move relied on improvisation, unpredictability, and bold thinking. The first wave of Vorath ships faltered. Evan's tactics disrupted their coordination. Skimmers darted like fireflies, evading fire and creating confusion. Vorath commanders grew frustrated, their rigid strategies crumbling against the humans' ingenuity. Illyra observed the battle from the central chamber, her eyes filled with a mixture of awe and pride. "They truly are remarkable," she whispered. "The prophecy, it was not wrong." Evan directed a small team toward the Vorath command flagship. "This is the key," he explained. "Take out the command, and their fleet will falter. But it won't be easy. They've reinforced it heavily." He led the team personally, moving through the shadows of massive enemy vessels, avoiding detection, and using clever maneuvers to bypass sensors. The Vorath assumed humans would act predictably, but Evan's every move was unexpected. When they reached the command ship, Evan found the access panel locked with advanced technology. He studied it quickly, recognizing patterns, circuits, and weak points. Within minutes, he devised a plan to bypass the locks, using a combination of Xylarian tech and human improvisation. "Stand back," he whispered. With precise movements, He activated a sequence that opened the doors. The team slipped inside, confronting the Vorath officers in a brief but decisive skirmish. Evan's leadership was clear. He did not rely on brute force. He relied on strategy, quick thinking, and the ability to adapt. The Vorath officers, caught off guard by the humans' unconventional tactics, were neutralized efficiently. With the command ship under control, Evan sent a signal to the rest of the Vorath fleet. The enemy was in disarray. Communication was disrupted, formations collapsed, and confusion spread like wildfire. The human-led plan had worked. Back at the palace, Illyra's forces took advantage of the Vorath chaos. Energy shields protected critical infrastructure, while Xylarian pilots, guided by Evan's instructions, struck the disoriented fleet. One by one, Vorath ships were disabled or forced to retreat. Evan watched from the observation deck as the last Vorath units fled, their engines sparking and shields failing. The battle was won, but it was more than just a victory. It was proof of humans' resourcefulness, bravery, and ingenuity. The Queen approached him, her presence commanding yet warm. "Evan," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber, "you have done more than save my life. You have shown the galaxy that humans are capable of extraordinary things. Your courage, your mind, and your spirit have turned the tide of this war." Evan shook his head. "I just did what humans do. We adapt, we think, and we act when it matters most. That's all." Illyra smiled. "And that is why humans are respected across the stars. Today, you became a symbol not just of a prophecy, but of what your kind can achieve. The galaxy will remember this." Days later, the Xylarians began rebuilding the city, repairing damaged structures, and strengthening defenses. Evan worked alongside them, guiding efforts and teaching human techniques for problem-solving, improvisation, and tactical thinking. The Xylarians were strong and advanced, but humans had something unique: the ability to approach challenges differently, to find solutions where none seemed possible. Illyra invited Evan to the palace courtyard, where the city's citizens had gathered. She addressed them with solemn pride. "People of Xylaria," she said, "today we honor a human, Evan Marlowe, who has saved our city, our lives, and our future. He has proven that humans are brave, clever, and capable of achieving what others cannot. Let this be the beginning of a new era, an alliance between our species, guided by courage, ingenuity, and mutual respect." The crowd cheered, their voices echoing across the glowing forests. Evan felt a warmth he had never experienced. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy. Yet here, they were celebrated not for sheer strength, but for their intelligence, courage, and heart. Illyra approached him afterward, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. "You have changed the course of history, human. I owe you my life, and the future of my people is forever tied to yours. The galaxy will know that humans are extraordinary." Evan smiled, humbled. "Thank you, Your Majesty. But humans, we've always done what we must to survive, to protect, to find a way. I'm just glad it mattered here." She nodded. "It mattered more than you can imagine. And now, we move forward, not as separate species, but as allies. Together, humans and Xylarians will shape a brighter future." In the following weeks, humans and Xylarians began working closely together. Scientific exchanges, shared technology, and collaborative missions strengthened the bond between their species. Evan became a trusted advisor, not just for strategy, but for teaching humans unique perspective, creativity, adaptability, and courage under pressure. He realized that humans' true strength was not in size, power, or numbers, but in their spirit and ingenuity. Across the galaxy, civilizations might outmatch humans in technology or experience. But humans had a spark that could change outcomes, save lives, and inspire hope. Elira often visited him, discussing strategy, diplomacy, and philosophy. Their conversations reflected mutual respect, trust, and a growing friendship. She spoke often of the prophecy, but Evan understood that the prophecy had chosen him not for destiny alone. It had chosen human ingenuity, courage, and unpredictability. One evening, as the twin moons of Luminara rose over the glowing forests, Evan stood with Elira on the palace balcony. The city shimmered below, rebuilt and thriving. "You have done more than survive, Evan," Elira said softly. "You have shown the galaxy that humans are capable of greatness. Your kind is young among the stars, but full of potential. Never forget that." Odor. Evan touched the tattoo on his neck, a symbol that had once seemed small and personal. Now it represented courage, destiny, and the recognition that humans, though small in galactic terms, could influence the universe in profound ways. "I won't forget," he said. "Humans. We'll keep finding ways. We'll keep helping, keep protecting, and keep proving that we're more than our size or numbers. We're clever, brave, and determined. That's what we do." Elira smiled. "And that is why I owe you my life, human. But more than that, the galaxy owes you and your kind respect. Today, the story of humans has changed forever." Evan looked out over the city, feeling the weight and the promise of what lay ahead. The Vorath threat had been overcome, but the universe was vast and full of challenges. Yet humans had proven, time and again, that courage, intelligence, and ingenuity could overcome the impossible. He took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the city, the strength of allies, and the spark of human potential within himself. This was just the beginning of a future where humans would not only survive among the stars, but thrive, lead, and inspire. And as Luminara glowed beneath the twin moons, Evan Marlowe understood the truth the galaxy had just learned. Humans were unpredictable, courageous, clever, and extraordinary. And in that truth lay the power to shape the future of the stars.